Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And summertime, finally, and summer means movies. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about the best sports movie ever. I'm not sure we all have an agreement on our favorite sports movie, but we'd probably come up with some that we would agree were among the top. I'd say right near the top for me would be Rocky, not all the whole Rocky series, but the original Rocky, the upstart dream come true movie.
Yeah, I love the Rocky movies. I like Sylvester Stallone. And I liked Rocky 1, of course, but my favorite one was Brian's Song. I mean, that's the memories I have from that movie. I mean, to me, it was just a great movie.
For those who aren't 60 years old, Brian's Song was about the friendship between Brian Piccolo of the Chicago Bears and Gale Sayers, sort of the Sandy Koufax of football. He had 5 great years and then retired because of injuries. Just phenomenal player. But Piccolo and he, very different backgrounds, but had a very close relationship. I also like St. Ralph. St. Ralph is very much like the Rocky movies, except it's about cross country and set in the early 1950s in Canada. It's another tearjerker at the end.
Yeah, and I put Hoosiers above, other than Brian's Song, I put Hoosiers above every day. All the other sports movies, that was just a great movie. I mean, from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's a true story too. So.
Well, it's certainly a variation on a true story. It took place in Milan, Indiana, and actually the team didn't bring back a weak team. They'd been 21-2 the year before, and the coach was married with a couple little kids, but that was a poetic license that they created that background love story, because we all know every great movie has a love story embedded within. Remember the Titans, I think, was another football movie that was really memorable. Talked about the story of T.C. Williams and integration back in the early 1980s.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie. I mean, just too much going back and forth, the whole movie. I mean, the ending was great, of course, but I just didn't like the movie. Just that movie and a couple of other movies we talked about. I just think that Brian's Song and Hoosiers, those two movies were far above all the other movies I've seen.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. The Red Sox bring up Marcus Mookie Betts to play outfield. He's by trade a second baseman, but he's not taking Pedroia's job. It's kind of interesting. Gordon Needs on Friday wrote a story saying the Red Sox talent will rise up. There's no reason to panic. And then the next day he wrote, total panic should ensue. Sox bring up Betts. No, everybody's underachieving. I don't even know if he's reading his own stories.
I mean, you really don't know. They say they have the best farm, one of the best farm systems. You don't know until the players come up. Look at Bradley. He's a very good outfielder, but he's not a hitter. So your center fielder's got a hit for you. I don't care.
Well, Bradley's done a little bit more when he's tried to get away from the stance they tried to change him to get back to his original stance that he hit with most of his life. Now, the other issues, last night, Jack Buck was saying, well, Jacoby Ellsbury's been a great addition to the Yankees. Well, he's got 4 home runs and a 756 OPS, which is terrible for a guy who's I think he had something like 6 home runs and about 900 at-bats. So his 32 home run year was a total fluke, or else something else was going on that we don't know about. Now, obviously, it was addition for the Yankees and subtraction for the Red Sox, and Bradley hasn't given anything close to Ellsbury, but Ellsbury hasn't given anything close to Ellsbury either.
No, he's hitting 280-something. He's stealing bases, second in the league. He's playing a strong center field. I mean, he hasn't given him he started off great. Then he went to a big slump. Now he's hitting half decent again.
But if he hit like this last year, I don't think he'd be getting $20 million a year, that's for sure.
Well, you know why I got the $20 million. The Yankees have the money, and it's an upgrade for them.
Now, if we're talking about stupid, today an incoming Texas Tech cornerback got kicked out of school, but he hasn't even started school, and he was kicked off for getting an altercation with the women's basketball leading scorer, punching her in the face and apparently causing facial injuries. So anyway, I'm sure there'll be more forthcoming, but obviously probably not a real high character individual. And to add on to that, There's a 9-year-old, I think she's from Indianapolis, who is being recruited by the University of Miami for basketball. You say 9 years old, that's crazy. I never heard of anything like that. Well, as a 9-year-old playing for the varsity basketball team where she goes to school, she had 14.9 points and 7.5 assists as a 9-year-old.
What team? The varsity? High school
On
varsity?
the high school
team?
varsity.
Wow.
So she must be a little miniature.
What's her favorite team? Did you read?
No, I didn't see.
You didn't read that?
No, what is the
She
Heat?
wants to go to UConn.
Well, there's a lot of basketball to be played before she goes there, but obviously she must be a pretty unique talent. I want to say a little bit about, we'll get back to the NBA draft, but if you're going to prosper in the NBA as a player, you have to have something that you're going to bring to the table. You either have to be able to score, especially being a shooter. You have to have quickness, or you must have strength. You have to have something. So when we think about new players coming to the NBA, we have to say, what do they really bring? And the Celtics' first draft choice, Marcus Smart, is a guy who overpowered people with his strength more than his quickness, and he's a mediocre shooter. He's a young player, only a sophomore. So we'll see how it goes when he tries to do the same things in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great athlete, too. I mean, that's Celtics really like him. He's strong, very good athlete, can get to the basket, and he's relentless. But it all comes down to, I mean, you can be quick, you can be a great shooter, but you have to have it. You have to have it, like Olenek for the Celtics. I think he has it. People don't think he's quick enough defensively, but after seeing him at the end of the year and seeing him in college, he has it. He has the smarts. He has the smarts to score big time in the NBA, because, again, he just has the brain. He knows what to do with his body. He knows what to do with his talents. A lot of players don't know what to do with their talents, and they end up going in the NBA like Green, although he's come along. Green, the one that the Celtics drafted years ago, who's been playing.
Green.
Gerald Green's, he's getting it a little now through the experience. But if you have it, you don't need to be a super talented in regard to the physical part of the game.
Well, what I don't understand is, for example, the Timberwolves were drafting at 13 and took the kid Zach LaVine from UCLA, who was a backup player at UCLA. He is tremendously athletic. He has a 41-inch vertical jump, but to me, he hasn't proven anything about his ability to play basketball. So I was thinking about Gerald Green. He's that kind of guy who's got tremendous on-paper skills, but how does that translate into the future? And you have to hang around with a guy for 3 or 4 years to just get him to be average.
But you know, you see that a lot, Ron, we were talking about. You see it even with the younger kids, you know, high school players. You know, the players that really understand the game, they're the ones that become really good at it and can handle it. The game becomes a lot easier to them. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I don't want to go with the players that we've seen through the years. And there's some players who have been super talented, but they just don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have the knowledge of the game, the understanding of the game. They're not 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of the other players.
Well, I think that one issue that arises for young players is they're hearing a lot of voices. They have their friends talking in their head, their parents, they've got coaches, they've got AAU coaches, they've got their girlfriend or boyfriend. There's so many people telling them what they are, and sometimes they are that and sometimes they're not that, but your life may be a lot simpler if you're only hearing one voice instead of 10.
Oh, of course. Again, you know, you see it. We've seen it over the years, but and you try to make the players as relaxed as possible. I mean, we have one player, a number of players who are very talented. We have one player who the game just comes very easy to her, you know. And I mean, because she's calm, she understands the game, she's a step ahead of everyone else. You know, quickness. There's 6 girls on the team as quick as her, but she gets to the basket easier than the other girls because she knows what she has to do.
Well, there's a lot to be learned about basketball. Some sports, you know, for a sport like golf, I think there's a tremendous amount of learning that goes into becoming a good golfer, because there's a million types of shots that you have to be able to hit. I can barely hit a golf ball, but I do respect the fact that nobody's going to go out and walk onto a golf course and be anywhere close to a scratch golfer. It's just never going to happen. Baseball is another sport that takes a long time for people to develop. It's so rare when you see a young player like Bryce Harper, who comes up at a young age and gets success. Yeah, we can name you can name the people who had very minimal minor league careers or none, like Al Kaline of the Tigers or Ted Williams, because they're so rare. It's just such a long developmental process.
Well, baseball is different than every other sport. I mean, when you have the #1 draft pick in basketball, you're in pretty good shape, except I think Cleveland blew it with Wiggins. Wiggins is not definitely going to be a star. Park is definitely going to be a star as far as I saw both of them play. So, but I mean, you just look at that talent. But I mean, that goes. But baseball, you look at baseball. You could have the #1 draft pick, and the guy may never make the pros. You know what I mean? And baseball is so much different than you have. Again, basketball and football. You have the #1 draft pick. They're going to be starters in your team.
Yeah,
you know?
In baseball, you hear how many can't miss #1 overall guys. For people who are older, you remember a name, David Clyde. You know, guys who throw 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, especially if they're lefties. And if anybody looks up David Clyde's career, it just never got to be that. It's so difficult. You do get an advantage if you have the pedigree. For example, the Red Sox recently released Bo Greenwell, who got up to AA, who was Mike Greenwell's kid. I think you see these kids who are sons of former players, and they get more opportunities because of connections and the name. But that's probably not different than the rest of life either.
Well, look at the Red Sox with their young players. The superstars aren't doing so well anymore, and the players they weren't even thinking about are...
Well, the best player for the last 6 weeks has been Brock Holt.
Yeah.
You know, far and away.
Compare him to Bogarts. You know?
Right.
I mean, look what they're doing.
Well, you know, we'll get into that too. Now, a separate issue is for coaches. You know, there are some coaches who have immediate success, or at least it seems like they have immediate success, but usually there's a long apprenticeship where you're learning the game because you have to be able to translate what you're teaching players in practice into game action. And you could have all the knowledge in the world, but your ability to teach players and to help them understand the game is quite different than what you might think. You know, working with younger players, most of them have very little idea of how to play. They think you dribble the ball down court, it's kind of a free-for-all, and then somebody shoots the ball if they get close to open. At my next practice, I know what we're going to scrimmage. We're going to scrimmage without dribbling, because the game is about cutting and passing, and right now we're dribble crazy, dribble happy, and we need to get away from so much dribbling and look to pass and look to cut.
You know what the problem with the younger players have is if they're not comfortable with the ball, someone's on them, they have to dribble away from them instead of looking. I mean, I remember when I played when I was younger, you know, it was a lot different than when I got older. And but some of the players, again, like what you're talking about, they'll look to pass right away because they're comfortable. If there's pressure on them, they'll get away from it and make the pass. But like you said, the quicker you make the pass to the open players, the easier the game becomes. But, you know, I understand some players just don't have the talent right now to make that pass with someone on them. They got to get away. They feel they got to get away from them.
Well, ultimately, as a coach, in most sports, you want to simplify the game so that the players can execute understanding what they need to do. So if they understand they have to pass and cut, that's one element. They understand what part of the floor that they're particularly going to control. Yeah, if we had a bunch of big girls, I'd want to play the ends of the court. That's where big players dominate. But if you don't have those players and you have pretty athletic kids, you've got to run. You've got to dominate the middle of the court. And any coach who doesn't know that shouldn't be coaching.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, right. But you look at that. You look at kids that take geometry or algebra and they struggle because, you know, they just don't pick it up right away. Now they got 10 things going on in their head and they're not comfortable with either one. Sometimes you see that in basketball. Players just, they're so young and they don't have the skills yet that, you know, we get aggravated at times. And you know the players, there are players that have it and players don't have it yet.
Well, and that gets us back to the NBA draft. There's so much talk about, well, so-and-so's 22 years old or 23 years old, why would we want to draft them? Well, the answer is because they played for a lot longer. A guy like Adrian Payne, who got drafted 15 by the Hawks, he knows how to play. He played for Izzo at Michigan State for 4 years. What's his problem? He wasn't tall enough. He's about 6'10". He's got a long wingspan. He can shoot outside. He can defend. He's not a criminal. He got a lot of notoriety for being friendly with the young girl who had cancer. And he's a good citizen and really can play. Whereas you get a kid who's 19 years old hasn't really shown much, but he's very athletic. How does that qualify him to be in the NBA?
Yeah, you look at that too, right? I mean, like you said, Payne, through 4 years, was able to improve every year, in a great program, and he wasn't over his head. Now you got a young guy coming out who's talented, maybe a little more talented than he was as a freshman or a sophomore. Now he's coming into the NBA. He may be over his head. He may never improve the way he should have improved. He would have improved in college.
Right, and a guy like Embiid, he might miss 6 months. He might miss the whole year. We don't know because of his foot surgery. We don't know what his back issues are. And then you lose that development. It's not just you're not playing. You're not getting better not playing. So there's an additional cost to pay. Now, that being said, Philadelphia's got Nerlens Noel coming back from I think he had ACL surgery. And so he's a guy who's got to learn how to play, but he's got a lot of natural ability. And they drafted Dario Saric, who's going to be in Turkey for a couple of years. So Philadelphia, they may still struggle for a while, but they've got future draft choices or future guys going to be coming along. So even if they finished in the lottery again, they'd be saying, great.
Well, what it would be like, if they finish in the lottery again, it'd be like getting 4 of the top 5 picks in the country next year. If they just think of it, they got 2 players coming in after injuries who would be 1 and 2 in the country probably if they were still in college. And then they get they get one of the top 2 picks next year. So all of a sudden you got 4 of the best young players in basketball coming onto your team.
And then Cleveland, because they had the number 1 pick 3 out of the last 4 years, they had to go for a safer pick than to pick Embiid because they got Anthony Bennett, and that was a total washout for them. Doesn't mean he can't get better, but not good in the first year anyway. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the NBA, and was it Isaiah Austin that they honored, the player from Baylor who had Marfan syndrome? He's not going to be able to play professional basketball, but the NBA gave him his moment. They've offered him a job, Baylor's offered him a job as a coach, just because the risk is, for those who don't know, Marfan syndrome, supposedly Abraham Lincoln had it, tends to cause weakness in the aorta, the big blood vessel, and it can have spontaneous rupture, so you just can't play at a high level because you're at risk of death. So the NBA was cognizant of that. We'll get into more about the Celtics and what they've done, but I think they're in reasonable position for the future from what they've done, although it probably isn't going to have a dramatic impact in the short term.
No, but I'm happy with the way it went, and I'm just hoping they make the trade. Like again, llast year, Garnett that deal was July 31st, I think, or 30th. So, I'm hoping that they do make a deal. We both hope Rondo and Green go. They get maybe a big guy for him. So we're hoping for a shot blocker, good defensive player who can rebound. That's a great start if they can do that.
Well, they're saying that NBA teams, they're waiting for free agency because there's so much up in the air. Rondo, James, Wade, Bosh, what happens to Kevin Love. So there's still a lot of pieces that'll be moving around. So teams didn't want to pull the trigger on draft day trades. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We danced around Danny Ainge's selections for the Celtics, but we should talk about their draft selections as well as who they didn't draft, and what the impact or what is going to mean for other players currently on the roster. Rajon Rondo with 1 year left to go in his contract, Avery Bradley as a restricted free agent. So the number one choice for the Celtics, the number 6 pick overall, is Marcus Smart, really a combination 1-2 guard from Oklahoma State. He's about 6'3.5", 230, long wingspan, physical player, not particularly an outside shooter, great competitor, very hard-nosed kid, plays hard all the time. And our understanding is the Celtics will probably use him in a 3-guard rotation, at least as of now.
Could be one of the top 3 players in the draft too when it's finalized. I mean, you look at the players that went ahead of him. Again, Wiggins, I'm not sold on. He went number 1. Parker, I love. I mean, I think he's the most talented offensive player. He will be. He's the most talented offensive player coming out of college, but I put him right behind LeBron James and Durant, talent-wise, as an offensive player. Not known as a defensive player. Wiggins was, they said, very good defensively, but Wiggins, yeah, I've heard from a lot of scouts that said he's a long shot to be a superstar. You know, he should be a pretty good NBA player.
Well, even I think some people have compared him to Tracy McGrady. And if you look at a guy like McGrady, it took him 3 or 4 years to really become an impact player. So, you know,
but Wiggins is not a good shooter, though, Ron. He's not as good. Parker's a very good shooter, and Parker can go to the hoop. Parker finishes taller than Wiggins, although they're the same size. And Wiggins can sky, but Parker finishes better with shots, like pull-up jump shots. I saw them both play. Saw Parker play probably 15 games, you know, and he really. Okay. I mean, he led Duke. I told you halfway through the year that he's going to be a Durant.
The few games I saw Wiggins play, he didn't do that much.
No, and he was in loss. I mean, in the final game when they got knocked out, he took 5 shots, I believe, didn't hit it. I think he might have scored 6 points in the game. But he didn't touch the ball in the last 6 minutes of the game. Didn't touch it, didn't take a shot.
Well, they asked Danny Ainge, what is signing or drafting Marcus, how does that impact Rondo? And he said, not at all. He says, how does it impact Bradley? Not at all. So obviously nothing's impacting anybody.
Well, the way I look at it is if they're going to keep Rondo, if they were going to keep Rondo and Bradley, they would have picked Vonleh or Randall ahead of Smart if they were going to keep both of them. Don't forget, Bradley's restricted.
Right, so the Celtics can match another offer. So if somebody offers Bradley $9 or $8 million, I don't see the Celtics matching that.
And what do they need? They need a shot block and big man. I mean, Vonleh's 6'10", very good shot blocker, very good defensively. I mean, that's the name. I mean, I only saw him play a couple of games, but he did play tall. He's got a great body. So you look at it. If they're going to keep Rondo and Bradley, they're not going to take Smart over Vonleh. So you see Smart come in. My thinking is Rondo's definitely going. You're going to have Smart as a point guard, Bradley as the off guard. Smart is way ahead of Rondo. I'm talking about intensity-wise, defensively. He'll come off picks. He'll bang you. He'll rebound. He'll do everything. He's a mean, vicious player. You know, good guy, but he plays a different type game than Rondo.
Smart had a very tough upbringing in South Dallas. He had one brother die of cancer. Another brother almost died of a drug overdose. I read an article, I think it was in USA Today, where Smart talked about he was 12 or 13. He was he and a friend had been throwing rocks at a guy. Probably not a great move. Anyway, but the guy turned out to have a gun, so he chased him and was getting shot at, but he was able to obviously get away, and that was a seminal moment in his life. He said, if I keep up this route, I'm going to end up dead.
But I'll tell you, though, I love the picks. I love when you really look at it. Okay, they had 2 first-round draft picks. They get what I heard one scout said they compared him to Rose, you know, and that I think he's more like Wade. He's going to be that type of player, physical guard, take the ball to the hoop, pull up jump shots, you know, better defensively than Wade. And I think he's the perfect player for the Celtics. I think he's going to be a great player, a great player.
Well, and I think young surprised people in a tournament. He was outstanding, and he might have scored more on another team where he got more shots.
Well, he averaged 18 points in the Final Four.
I know, but he wasn't. It wasn't like he was shooting every time he had the ball. You know, some of these guys, they get a ridiculous amount of shots up.
Well, he averaged 6 3-point shots a game, which surprised me. So he's a very good shooter. He's a lefty too, right?
Lefty, 6'8".
You know, 6'8". He can play the off guard. He can play the 3. So you got to think the Celtics. I mean, look at the 2 guys they drafted. Look at the 2 guys we're down on for the Celtics.
Well, he's only 18. He's still only 18 years
He's
old.
He's going to be 19 next month.
So he could grow 2 or 3 more inches. So who knows what he ends up as?
But look, what is Ainge thinking about? Is he thinking about Rondo and Green going, trading the 2 of them, you know, getting the big guy? I don't know. You like the guy from Detroit?
Oh, Greg Monroe. He's a power forward / center, 18 points a game. I think he's got a deal for $44 million for 4 years. So that would kind of match up salary-wise with Rondo.
Yeah, Rondo, maybe Green, and get him and another player.
Right. So, you know, I don't know if Detroit I mean, who else Detroit has that would make this guy expendable. But
Ron, just think of this, all right? Just think of this. I mean, I know, you know, the optimist that I am. I mean, just think of this. Smart and Bradley at guard, both of them tough defensive players, okay? You have Olenek, you have Sullinger. You have Young. You trade Rondo and Green. You get a big guy who can play defense and rebound.
Well, you still have Humphries.
And you still have Humphries.
You just need one guy who can set screens, play defense, and protect the rim somewhat.
Yeah, but look at that team. And people, you know, you talk about rebuilding, and then next year they have 2 first-rounders. The next 3 years they have 2 first-rounders.
I think it was in 2004 the Pistons won the NBA title, and the center was Ben Wallace, who, you know, he couldn't make it from a 3-footer from 3 feet.
But
I mean, he was a terrible offensive player, but he was a terrific defensive player.
You know what I would do if they traded Rondo? Honestly, I know I would do this. If they traded Rondo and Green and got Monroe and another player and had that lineup, I would buy another 12-game package like it did be. You know, I gave up my 12-game package when they got Garnett and Allen because I didn't want to go to games and watch the veterans. I didn't want to see them win by 20, 30 points. I really didn't. I love going to the games when they had the young players.
Well, it's more fun to watch younger players. Let's say they could magically snap your fingers and you bring back Pierce and Garnett. Who wants to watch Pierce and Garnett at the tail end of their career? Because, you know, there's no upside there at all.
Or even when they win by 20 or 30. I love going to watch Jefferson, Perkins, those type players, West when he was playing with the team. You know, the younger players, even though West became a head case.
So we should switch gears and talk a little bit about the World Cup. United States.
Really?
Yeah, the United States plays Belgium on Tuesday. Now, most of us would have trouble finding Belgium with a map and a compass, but I'm sure there'll be a huge audience for that. And there's been a lot of interesting games, and of course, the whole dynamic about soccer, the part that irritates me is a guy falls down, he falls straight down and rolls over 5 times like he's just been shot out of a cannon.
And another thing, too, is there's always an excuse. No one takes the blame. I mean, that game against Portugal, how does Bradley give up the ball, knowing it's less than a minute to go? Well, thinking you're not exactly sure. And then he loses the ball. Instead of kicking it down the other end to use a timeout.
The same thing happened today, Greece and Costa Rica. Costa Rica was playing a man short as the player was disqualified for 2 yellow cards. And toward the end of the game, they just inexplicably gave the ball up instead of trying to possess the ball and kill time. Greece scored very late, and I'm not sure if it went into penalty kicks or not. So we'll find out later this evening. But maybe the players just under pressure, they forget how to play.
But you talk about that play now. Who's the great player for Portugal, the best player in the world?
Suarez.
No, the guy that kicked the ball.
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo. I mean, he made an unbelievable pass. I mean, it was unbelievable. But the U.S. had 2 defensive players there that were trotting down the field, and they let the guy outrun them and head the ball in for the goal. Are you kidding me? Know what the excuse they were using? Well, it was hot, and they were tired. Are you kidding me? And I hear one of them is supposed to be a great player. Where's his heart? You see that play develop, and you're busting it to get in front of that guy so he can't get the ball. You know the best player in the world's got the ball. You know, I mean, and that aggravated me. And they, you know, they don't take the blame for that. I mean, I was aggravated watching it, and I'm not a big soccer fan. I want them to win, but you know what gets me, Ron? ESPN's doing a number on us. They really are. I mean, constant, World Cup, they're giving scores. No one knows who the players are on the team. And they're giving scores ahead of the baseball games.
Well,
I said, are you kidding me?
Among the announcers, I think no one is superior to Ian Darke, who is an English broadcaster who's covered soccer for a long time. He has an incredible command of the English language. It's a challenge in the sea of chaos in the box. It's just fantastic. Now, there's a commercial that he did for ESPN where he is broadcasting a date. It's a blind date. So he's standing up there with a microphone, and there's a young woman and a young guy, and he's talking about the give and take. The fellow spills some wine on her and says, "Oh, it looks like it's the end for him now." It's the greatest 2 minutes of commercials ever.
No one else is saying though about soccer though? Ron, they're saying soccer's catching baseball. Where's it catching baseball in the United States? Number one, they don't play the same seasons, do they?
No, but
Well, soccer's going on now.
I think it's just
soccer
most of the baseball that we watch is pretty boring because, there's it's a 3 and 2 count on every single batter.
Well, I was cursing last night when Tanaka threw that pitch to Napoli, that fastball.
Well, there have been some interesting games. Yesterday, it was Brazil against, who'd Brazil play?
You're not really watching those.
Yeah, absolutely. Brazil played.
They almost lost it.
Wasn't cost Chile, and Chile gave Brazil a great battle. Went into penalty kicks. Neymar, the Brazilian star, is just phenomenal. Although he's guilty of a lot of this embellishment on the falls, but he is so fast. He must run about a 4.2 40. I mean, nobody can keep up with him, and everybody has a first name, so it's Neymar and Fred, Hulk. They have a guy actually named the Hulk. So it's incredible the skill the players have. And when you had 90% of the fans rooting for Brazil, it made for an incredible environment.
So now yesterday, what time was that game on?
Noon.
You had nothing better to do than watch that game?
It was awesome.
Are you kidding me?
So
you're one of the players. You played it, right?
Yeah, I played soccer in high school. So back when we played, it was all about whatever your natural skill level was, because there was no youth developmental soccer. There was no travel team soccer. None of that stuff.
Could you coach it?
No.
Really? Do you know enough about it?
I mean, I know the rules, but I don't know enough about the finer points of the game. I mean, my senior year, I got 12 goals in 16 games. So I had some natural ability, but it wasn't cultivated ability.
Now, do you enjoy watching, really, you enjoy watching these soccer matches?
Well, I enjoy watching these,
baseball? Like, say, the Red Sox and Yankees game yesterday.
Well, I'd watch the Red Sox-Yankees, but if it were Kansas City and Seattle, I'd rather watch the soccer game.
That's how most people, right?
So it depends, but it's not like I'm going to watch MLS soccer because it's not the same quality of play.
Well, I'd watch the U.S. playing anybody, especially in the World Cup, over watching Kansas City and Oakland play.
Now, you watch a game and then you start rooting for one team or the other because you like the way one guy plays, you like the style. Or I just liked watching Uruguay every game in the tournament. I saw them play 3 games, and they were really chippy. They'd always be throwing the elbow, giving the guy a shove from behind, tripping people. So when Suarez bit the guy, it seemed to me that was just another extension of what Uruguay was. So I couldn't have been happier to see Uruguay go out because I thought they were classless.
Does the U.S. have a chance to beat who are they playing?
Belgium.
Belgium?
Yeah, they have a chance. I didn't think that Belgium was,
I mean, they played Germany pretty good. It should have been a 0-0 game.
Chile hit the crossbar in extra time against Brazil, and they would have eliminated Brazil. Sometimes you have to be lucky, too.
Who were the best players on the U.S. team?
Well, it's noteworthy today that Landon Donovan was interviewed and said he was hoping for the U.S. to do poorly when he didn't get picked. And I think he was saying, well, he's been...
Of course, yeah.
I think the goalie's, one of the best players. Altidore, who got hurt, is one of the best players. To me, there's not a lot of players who, to me, are worthy of being followed on the U.S.
What's his name? The guy who scored 2 goals. Dempsey?
Yeah, Clint Dempsey.
He looks good.
He was on the Revolution for a while.
Yeah, he was
wasn't
early on.
So,
But know what's unbelievable, Ron? Some of these guys are making like $40 million a year. They said they signed a contract for $40 million, one of the players. Oh, I'm playing over in Europe. They gave him
Right.
$40 million. He's making more than any pro player in the United States.
well,
they said.
if you're in the English Premier League, I mean, obviously the Red Sox invested a huge amount of money in Liverpool, and do they spend the same amount of time and interest even on the Red Sox as they do on Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool has a player that is not well liked, but making big
Well,
money.
Suarez is going to be on Liverpool.
Well, one of them's making 20-some million more than any Red Sox player. So he's paying big money out there. So you got to think soccer in Europe is bigger than baseball in the United States.
I mean, it's here for now, but once the World Cup is over, will soccer go back into the shadows? Probably.
Well, the biggest problem we have here in Massachusetts is that they're playing in Foxborough. If they were playing in Boston and at a soccer stadium, they get a ton of fans from, Boston. A lot of them don't travel out to Foxborough. I mean, they can take the transportation. I guess they have that. They have a system.
Well, there's several teams that are really strong. Obviously, Brazil is very strong. Colombia has surprised people in playing really well. Argentina, who has Lionel Messi, he's a terrific player. France is playing well. Germany's playing well. So there's still a lot of really good teams. So
how about the Mexican coach?
Oh, he did not look happy. Mexico lost late to the Netherlands, and today there was a late foul. Oh, that was yesterday with the late foul. I saw it. It was the guy tripped in the box. I mean, it wasn't the worst foul, but there was some discussion that there were several plays like that, and if you keep pushing and tripping people in the box, eventually they're going to call it. So it was kind of the cumulative effect.
But you look at it and they say it's getting popular, more and more popular. But you look at Melrose. I mean, their soccer teams have never been good. So the talented players must be playing other sports.
Well, they went a few years ago. They went
they had
pretty
what's
far.
his
And
name?
well,
The
no,
boys.
even before Franzi Perot, they had some success a few years ago. They got deep into the Division II North. Franzi Perot obviously has a scholarship to Northeastern. He's terrific.
Yeah, but out of the last 10 years, how many times has the girls' team or the boys' team made the tournament?
Well,
How many times would you say?
I think the girls' team's made it once, maybe twice.
Out of 10 years?
Yeah.
And what about the boys?
I don't know how many times.
I mean, it's not a blame on anybody. I'm just
No, no,
saying
no.
that.
Well, I think
What
that-
else? What's during soccer? What other
Well,
sports?
volleyball is on the girls' side, so you're gonna,
So that goes up against volleyball. So just about forget about it.
right. So volleyball has had such a run of success that a lot of young players are attracted to volleyball. That doesn't mean that there are not a lot of skilled players playing soccer, but also the Middlesex League is very strong in soccer. Belmont, Lexington, Stoneham's been really good. So.
Another thing too, Ron, though, with that, is you can be a soccer, you got volleyball. Look at girls basketball and hockey. First year they were independent. Probably the top 8 graders in the 8th grade class are all playing hockey. So you look at them, and we don't even know about the other girls and they played varsity. So you got all those girls playing hockey, and the hockey team's going to become a powerhouse in the next couple of years. And I heard there's a goalie down there. It's going to be an 8th grader next year who's unbelievable. So you look at this group with the other players, and if they keep coming up, hockey's going to be a dominant sport in Melrose, and it's going to hurt the basketball program because you just look at it. Look at the 8th graders in basketball. I mean, there's some talent, but
Well, you just need fewer players. You really have to develop a couple of strong players every year.
in basketball.
In
yeah,
basketball,
in
whereas
basketball.
hockey is kind of you have multiple defensive pairings. You need a strong goalie. You need a couple of lines.
Look at our basketball team now. The girls are going to be 7th graders. There are 2 girls that are playing hockey too that are playing basketball. Where do they go? If the hockey team's playing great, when they have talent, where are they going to go? They're going to play hockey. They're going to play basketball. If hockey team has a better coach than the basketball coach, what are the parents going to do? They're going to direct the kids
Right,
to hockey.
And if you're the coaches, you have to be recruiting the best athletes. And I would never blame a coach for doing that and going after the more skilled players and trying to protect their best interests.
I mean, you're pushing. You have coaches down in the middle school program like we are. We're pushing our girls. One girl, I'm not going to name her, She's going to be a superstar in high school in basketball. She also plays hockey. And there's another player who's could be very good in basketball. She also plays hockey, and she's a star in hockey. So where's she going to go? But this one player, they lose this player to hockey over basketball. You're talking about a future possible MVP of the league that decides to go hockey. And, I mean, that's what they have now. I mean, the basketball program now has the hockey program, which they never had. Even when they were with Watertown, you basically really didn't have to worry too much about it.
That's why it's essential for coaches to get to know the lower levels of the program, the coaches to communicate with the players and the parents and let them know that they're interested and they're going to have a good experience or hopefully offer them a good experience. And because if they fail to do that, the program fails.
And you look at it too, right? Where are the players going? These parents aren't stupid, the players aren't stupid. What are they doing for the girls that are just coming up to high school? What are they doing in the summertime? Are they working with them? Are they leaving them behind? Are they interested enough in the program to work with these kids and make sure they're getting the best? Like, what are we doing with our team? By far, our 7th grade team is going to have the best schedule in the state next year. We already know the schedule. But what are these coaches, up above? Are they making sure that these kids are playing in the right leagues? They don't even know what's going on, half of them.
Well, we'll be right back.
This is Chris Eck of the Boston Cannons, and you're watching Let's Talk Sports.
Hey, this is Paul Rabel from the Boston Cannons, and you're watching Let's Talk Sports.
Welcome back. General Lucchino and Captain Charrington lead the Red Sox into Little Bighorn in New York with so much confusion since they brought back Stephen Drew. Stephen Drew is hitting less than .040 on the road this year, making last night's home run by Napoli a near impossibility because you could have intentionally walked Napoli to get to Drew because he has had one hit in a month, and he looks totally hopeless out there. Even Scott Boras, endless shill and promoter that he is, has totally silenced himself in discussing Stephen Drew.
They had him batting 5th last night. That was amazing.
I know. Based on what? He had one hit the night
look at
before?
the Yankees. I got disgusted. Tanaka's thrown. They keep him in there in the 9th inning, right? He struck out Napoli twice. He threw him 5 split fingers, and Napoli didn't come within a foot of any of them. He's got 2 strikes on him, and he decides he's going to try to throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball past him on the outside corner. I mean, the pitch that he wants, he shook off McCann. He was careful with him the whole game. And in that situation, in the 9th inning, 1-1, 2 outs, 2 strikes, he's got Drew up behind him, throws him a fastball.
Well, supposedly Napoli was running around the bases saying, "You're an idiot."
No, know what happened? I'm over there, my wife's saying, "What are you yelling at?" I said, you got to be an idiot to throw that pitch. What does Napoli do when he's going in the dugout? Says, "What an idiot." Twice, I heard it. Twice he yelled it out. You could hear him. What an idiot. What an idiot. Everybody in the Red Sox was laughing.
I mean, you stick the bat out in Yankee Stadium, you get a home run to right field. So.
But I'd never seen anything like that. It was,
But the Red Sox
amazing.
have a world of problems right now. Krasinski hasn't worked out. He hasn't been great defensively, and he's been less than mediocre offensively. At first base, Napoli's been hurt a lot, but he's been productive when he's actually gotten to play. Pedroia is way below his normal production.
He got 3 hits yesterday. He looked good yesterday.
He did look better yesterday.
See the play he made?
Yeah. What a double
He's
play.
still got the best defensive second baseman in baseball.
Right. Drew, what can you say? The guy's hitting 130. And 130, there's no such thing as a hard 130. 130 is 130. The Mendoza line, named after Mario Mendoza for his career 200-ish average, looks like Mount Everest to Stephen Drew.
But as a Red Sox fan, when you like to see Holt at third and Betts in the outfield,
well,
instead not Drew playing and Bogarts at short.
Right. Bogarts hadn't made an error in an extended period of time when he was playing at short. His fielding percentage is better at short than third, and his confidence got totally shot when they moved him to third base. So that's on Charrington or Lucchino or both, and that's why the cheap comments at the beginning. The best player over the last month easily has been Holt, who's been playing everywhere and playing well defensively and offensively.
Is he a rookie?
Yes.
He's going to end up number 2 behind Tanaka as rookie of the year.
And then, Bradley struggled. Nava's been better since he got back, although he has no power. And Ortiz has had some key hits, but by and large, I'm still what is it with Ortiz? Every time he doesn't get a hit, he's got to go crying to the official scorer. I mean, he's done a tremendous job for the Red Sox over the years, but it just seems petty to be bothering the official scorer on a regular basis. This is twice this year already.
And they gave him the hit again, too.
I know.
Every time he squawks, he gets the hit.
So maybe they should have a new rule. David Ortiz gets to be his own scorer for when he hits the ball.
Those are 2 points in his batting average, you know.
Yeah,
That one hit.
makes a big deal in the big picture. He's already got another 2 years of incentive on his contract.
How about last year when he busted the bat and it almost shattered and almost hit Pedroia? I mean, that would have been great if it caught him in the
And then
neck,
add
huh?
another thing, because they activated Buchholz, they had to send somebody down. So ultimately, it ends up being Ruby De La Rosa, who had 5 starts, 2.52 ERA. Where meanwhile, Jake Peavy looks like he's 1,000 years old, can barely reach the plate, can't see the signs, has no stuff anymore. You know, he's getting paid over $13 million a year, so you're not going to bench the guy or disable the guy or whatever because he's making the money. But money can't play. You know, and the Red Sox, they're always sending the wrong message to the young players that, well, you know, this guy's an established veteran, he's whom we value, he's making the big money, see you later.
And De La Rosa, I mean, that's a terrible move. In the last game he pitched, he looked as good as anybody I've seen this year with his fastball getting up to 96 miles an hour, that curveball he has. I mean, he looked tremendous. And they're sending him down to the minors. I mean, I don't blame him for being upset.
Well, Breslow, I mean, from what I hear from my sources in the bullpen, literally, that Breslow is a wonderful person. He's an exceptionally bright guy. He's just pitching poorly. You know, you can be the nicest guy in the world, but I'd really like you to be able to perform at a high level. You know, this isn't, you know, the View.
Yeah, he's one of those pitchers, though, Ron, that has to pitch a lot because he doesn't have the super fastball. You know, he's got to work on his curveball has to be sharp at all times. So if he's not pitching well all the time, he's not going to be effective.
You know, obviously, against the National League teams, Peavy was effective. He's got an ERA of under 3.50 and did okay. So they're probably looking to trade him to the National League. They asked Dubron about how he'd feel about being traded. He said, I'm okay with it. So he just wants an opportunity to pitch, and it doesn't look like the Red Sox have a high degree of confidence in him, so they could move him. Middlebrooks and Victorino are on the shelf indefinitely. Middlebrooks has swelling in his broken finger. Victorino's hamstring not coming around.
I mean, the Red Sox have the pitching. You know, they have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. They're hitting. Look at the outfield. I mean, the outfield's a disaster. I would put Betts out there and put Holt at third base, but you know, you just got to try to trade Drew, put Bogarts back at shortstop. I mean, what's he doing? He's losing all this experience on a team that's not going to even make the playoffs. Although in baseball, you never know.
Well,
baseball it can turn around quickly.
Well, they're saying that they're grooming Devin Marrero at AA to be the future shortstop, and Bogarts has to play third, so he's got to lump it or like it, and you know, no matter what. So I'm sure that's the message. But you cannot come out 2 days before you reacquire Drew and tell Bogarts you're the shortstop of the future, and then stab him in the back 2 days later. That's just poor organization, poor management, poor leadership, and I'm sure the Red Sox regret having that conversation.
Yeah, and they went, at that time though, they were trying to turn things around, but 2 days later they must have said to themselves, we made the wrong move. Because right after that it happened, things weren't going good. You know, they were really getting knocked left and right by the press and the fans for making that move.
You know, the big question is, and Michael Mauboussin, who's a money manager, wrote a book called The Success Equation, Untangling Skill and Luck in Business, Sports, and Investing. And he makes the point that there's a lot of luck in some sports and not so much luck in other sports, basketball being one where there's not so much luck, that there's more skill involved, and that you can say that baseball, there's more luck. The Red Sox have lost a lot of one-run games this year, but they won those games last year. Well, so that if you look at the track record of the Red Sox over the last 4 years, which year doesn't look like the others? It's last year. So last year was the outlier year, not this year. This year has been more like the other years than before. So the Red Sox Are they having bad luck now? Maybe a little bit.
Well, baseball is probably that, and hockey, I think. Hockey, that's why you see a lot of upsets in hockey in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Puck goes in off someone's skate. But in baseball, look at what Clark, again, when the Red Sox came back and won 4 in a row, when Clark hit that ground rule double. That would have been the winning run.
Well, the two factors that Marbison discusses as being important to look at are persistence, that is something happening over and over again, and predictability. And regarding the Red Sox, they just haven't played well over the long pull. You can't say, oh, they're only 30 games into the season. The season's half over. They've already shown that they're pretty much a mediocre team. They're among the worst in the American League in runs scored, among the worst in baseball, including having a DH. So, they've just done nothing offensively. And there's no reason to think all of a sudden everybody's going to start hitting.
Yeah, but it could happen. Where football, you pretty much know what's going on halfway through the year. I mean, in baseball, anything. With that pitching staff, you never know. I mean, I wouldn't count the Red Sox out. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Red Sox, but I wouldn't count them out.
Well,
I mean, you get the good pitching, you get the timely hitting. I know you're saying it's half a year, but you still never know. You never know in baseball.
You're right, because there's a lot of different seasons. Who knows? Maybe Betts comes up and he has, 6 weeks that he's hot and he hits 350 and steals some bases and he looks, he brings some life to the team that otherwise looks lifeless. But, right now, when you move into the second half of the season, Gomes last year of his contract, I'm not sure if Carp is, Ross last year of the contract. So you get a lot of veterans who start saying, I want playing time because, I want to play again next year. If I don't have any numbers, I can't get any money. So the grousing starts. To the Red Sox veterans who are complaining about the lack of production by the young players, I would say, look in the mirror. Because there's plenty of guys who have just not gotten it done. It's not just the young guys.
It's everybody. I mean, look at Pedroia, got 3 hits yesterday, but he hasn't hit.
Well, Pedroia, at least,
Ortiz hasn't hit.
They interviewed him and he said, yeah, I haven't had the hot streak where I get really hot over 7 or 10 days. Don't worry, it's coming.
Well, he looked good yesterday against Tanaka. He looked real good. He was right on his pitches. I still say he's too far away from the plate. That's been, for the last 2 years I've said that. He's reaching for too many pitches, and it's really hurting him. But, if he gets going.
I mean, I just thought his top hand was hurt, so the way.
But there's really no one else in the team that's going to lead them. I mean, Ortiz, like you said, will get a hit here and there. Napoli, you can't throw him a fastball. You got to keep him off, you got to keep throwing him curves and, try to pick the corner inside. I mean, you throw that fastball over the plate, he's just going to drill it.
Well, it's a month to go before the trade deadline, and the issue is, will the Red Sox be sellers or will they be buyers? Now, they have a lot of money invested in the team, so I'm sure the Red Sox are heavily PR focused. They want to make sure they look like they're doing the right thing, whether they really are doing the right thing. So do they bring up Christian Vasquez? I mean, David Ross, nice guy, did some good things in the World Series, personal catcher for John Lester. Guy can't hit. I mean, he's not a hitter. I mean, he did hit a home run last night, but he was probably the second most surprised person in the park.
Well, if they win tonight, right, and they're going to feel good about themselves, and they go on a little streak, I mean, they're not that far behind, but they got to get going. I mean, the teams in front of them aren't playing
well,
great
Toronto's
right now.
played poorly lately, and Baltimore's
They always fall apart, Toronto.
Yeah, now the teams that the Giants continue to play well. Brewers have played pretty well.
The Yankees can't get they got to get their pitchers back. Sabatia's been out. Pineda's been out.
I mean, what do the people in Detroit say? How does Kansas City anywhere close to them? So, baseball's a funny sport that, as you say, there's a lot of seasons within the season, so things happen.
I mean, like I said, when you talk about baseball, a lot of luck in baseball, you have 2 strikes on you, right? And you tick the ball, it goes foul, right? You weren't on that pitch. Or you hit the ball and you hit a fly ball to center field and it's an out. You were on that pitch pretty much. But I mean, that's the difference. Well, because you weren't on the pitch as well, you lucked out, and because you were on the pitch, you fly out.
Right.
So that's where it comes, where to me it's a lot of luck.
Well, you tried to get into this before. This also extends back to Marbison's book. He says, when there is an element of luck involved. You need to have the best possible process you can to get the best lineup, the best, training program, whatever it is, to give yourself the chance to win under those circumstances. And that's when you get back into the summer program that you wanted to talk about, because to be successful as a coach, you need to develop your players, you need to have a clear philosophy that the players embrace, and you have to motivate the players, and you have to see steady improvement. We don't see the players between now and whatever their chosen sports season is, so we don't know about what that is. And obviously in Massachusetts, coaches are only allowed to have limited contact with their players. In volleyball, for example, Coach Kelly is the Bay State coach for the Northeast region. So they have 4 girls from Melrose on that team. So he can do that, and they have practice a couple days a week, and that's a tremendous advantage for the team going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, and he, it's all set up with them. They've been so successful, that's why. I mean, it's all set up. He's got a great program going. And, and I tried to talk to our athletic director about the girls' basketball program, how important it is to do the right thing year round, not just in the wintertime, the spring, the summer, the fall, to have a real good program set up for everybody. And you know how it is. It's not just Melrose, where the coaches just worry about the varsity and forget everybody else, or players they think that will play on the varsity next year. But what about the other players? Are they taking care of them? Are they telling them where they could play, sending them to leagues?
When you have young players, it's a serious mistake to give up on a player early. You can't always project seeing a young player, how they're going to develop. Maybe they're a really competitive player, they're a player who has more interest, or they have some growth and development spurt that you just don't expect. Now, to pick a player who had exceptional success, looking at they had the Global Scholastics in the paper not too long ago. I saw that one of our former players was a track all-league in the Middlesex League as a freshman. So, there's a player who, already is impactful as a freshman and will only get better. There's something that says about our basketball coaching where our 2 most successful athletes may end up in track.
Yeah, I know, and they're doing really well. And I mean, they're just good athletes. They get, in track, I mean, if you can run in track, you're going to be good in track. I mean, if you can run, I mean, what else do you have to work on?
Yeah, you don't have a...
It's not like you have to work on 100 things of basketball, or volleyball to become a star. If you can run in track and you just work on your speed, your quickness, and you're going to be successful. So track, and you have to just worry about yourself, number one. So to me, that becomes easier. Or even gymnastics. You don't have to rely on teammates, you just rely on your abilities.
Well, we hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and 4th of July. I've enjoyed being with you. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.